The morning sun peeked through the small cracks of the curtains, painting golden lines across the floor. Sarah woke up slowly, rubbing her tired eyes. She had been working 2 jobs lately, one at the local diner and another cleaning offices at night. Life in her small town in Ohio wasn't easy. Her 9-year-old son, Ethan, was still asleep in the next room, clutching his worn-out teddy bear. Sarah looked at him and whispered softly, "You're my gift, baby. You're the reason I keep going." Outside, the snow from last night had turned the neighborhood white and silent. The world looked peaceful, but inside Sarah's heart, there was a storm of worry. Her rent was due, her car was barely running. And she had no idea how she'd afford Ethan's school trip. She sighed deeply, then forced a smile. "Come on, Sarah," she told herself. "You can do this." That was how she lived, day by day, prayer by prayer. Later that morning, as Sarah was pouring coffee for customers at the diner, she overheard a couple talking about Christmas gifts. The woman said, "You know, I think the best gift is when someone reminds you that you matter." That sentence stayed in Sarah's mind the whole day. You matter. She couldn't remember the last time anyone had said that to her. When her shift ended, she checked her phone. There was a voicemail from her boss at the cleaning job. Her heart sank before she even listened. "Hey, Sarah," the message said. "We're cutting hours next week. Sorry." She sat on the bench outside the diner, her breath turning into little clouds in the cold air. The world felt heavy. She looked up at the gray sky and whispered, "God, why does it feel like I'm doing everything I can, but it's never enough?" There was no answer, only the sound of wind brushing against her jacket. But that night, something happened that changed everything. When she came home, Ethan ran up to her with a small paper in his hand. "Mom, look what I made at school." It was a crayon drawing, her, holding hands with Ethan, standing under a big yellow sun. Above them, in shaky handwriting, he had written, "My mom is my hero." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. She hugged him tight and whispered, "You have no idea how much I needed this today." Ethan smiled and said, "God told me to draw it for you." Sarah laughed softly. "He did, huh?" Ethan nodded seriously. "Yeah. I prayed that he'd help you smile again." She kissed his forehead. For a moment, the weight of the world lifted. Maybe that was how God worked, not through miracles in the sky, but through little hands holding crayons. The next few days were still tough, but Sarah began to notice small blessings she used to overlook. A neighbor dropped off extra groceries. A friend from the diner covered her shift when she was sick. Her old car, which she thought would stop working any day, somehow kept running. One night, as she watched Ethan sleep, she thought, maybe God's gifts aren't wrapped in shiny paper. Maybe they're hidden in moments, in love, in hope, in people. The next morning, she woke up early and wrote something on a sticky note. She placed it on the fridge before leaving for work. It said, "Thank you, God. I see your gifts now." She didn't know it yet, but that simple note would set something beautiful in motion, because sometimes, when you start to thank life for what you have, life begins to give you even more. And Sarah was about to discover that in a way she never expected. The wind outside was sharp that morning, and Sarah's old coat did little to keep her warm. She walked quickly toward the diner, her boots crunching on the frozen ground. Her breath came out in soft white clouds. Inside, the smell of coffee and pancakes greeted her like an old friend. The same regular customers were there, old Mr. Thompson with his newspaper, the young couple who always ordered one breakfast to share, and the truck drivers who came in for hot meals before long drives. Life felt ordinary again. But something inside Sarah had changed. Ever since Ethan gave her that drawing, she'd been thinking differently. She started noticing kindness, tiny things she used to miss. When she saw someone struggling with heavy bags, she helped without thinking. When she got her paycheck, she put a few dollars into a small envelope labeled Hope. She didn't know what it was for yet. She just wanted to believe something good was coming. One cold evening, just a few days before Christmas, Sarah's car finally gave up. It stopped in the middle of Main Street. The engine made one last choking sound and died. She sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. Then she laughed, almost crying. "Well, that's it. Merry Christmas, Sarah," she whispered. She got out, pulled her jacket tight, and started walking. The snowflakes were falling again, slow and silent. At the corner, she saw the town's small church. The lights were on, and faint music drifted out into the night. She hadn't been there in months. Something pulled her inside. The warm air smelled like pine and candle wax. A few people were decorating a Christmas tree near the altar. Sarah stood quietly, watching. A woman turned and smiled. "Hi there. You here for the Christmas program tomorrow?" "Oh, I didn't know there was one," Sarah said softly. "You should come," the woman said. "It's for everyone. Kids, families, anyone who needs a little joy." Sarah nodded politely, thanked her, and walked home. But something about that invitation stayed with her. The next day, she took Ethan to the church. The place was full of laughter and singing. Children were decorating cookies, parents were talking and drinking hot cocoa. For the first time in a long while, Sarah felt like she belonged. A man dressed as Santa handed Ethan a small gift, a toy car. Ethan's eyes lit up. "Thank you, Santa," he shouted, and everyone laughed. Later that evening, as they were leaving, the church pastor walked over. He was a tall, gentle man with kind eyes. "Sarah, right?" he said. She blinked. "Yes." "How did you know my name?" He smiled. "Ethan told me. He said you're the strongest mom in the world." Sarah's cheeks turned red. "He says a lot of things," she murmured. The pastor nodded toward the small envelope in her hand, the one labeled Hope. "What's that?" he asked kindly. She hesitated. "Just something I've been saving. For someone who might need it more than me." He looked at her for a long moment and said quietly, "Maybe you already found who it's for." That night, as Sarah tucked Ethan into bed, she thought about his words. She had been saving hope for someone else, not realizing that she needed to give it to herself first. The next morning, something unbelievable happened. Sarah went to the diner as usual. The place was busier than ever, with travelers passing through town for the holidays. She was rushing between tables when a man in a black coat sat down by the window. He looked tired but kind. "Coffee, sir?" she asked. "Yes, please," he said, smiling. "It's freezing out there." She brought him coffee and pie. He thanked her warmly. When he paid his bill, he left a small note on the napkin. She didn't notice it until after he left. It said, "You remind me of my mother. She worked hard her whole life and never gave up. Merry Christmas. Keep the faith." Under the note was a check. Sarah froze when she saw the number. It was enough to pay her rent for 3 months, maybe more. Her hands trembled. Tears blurred her vision. She looked outside, but the man was gone. That night, she told Ethan about it. "See, Mom, He said with a grin, "I told you. God listens." Sarah hugged him tightly. "Yes, baby. I guess he really does." The next few weeks felt lighter. Sarah fixed her car, caught up on bills, and even saved a little. She bought a second-hand guitar for Ethan because he'd always wanted one. Every time she looked at it, she remembered that stranger's note. And she remembered that sometimes God's gifts come when you least expect them, through people you don't even know. Months later, as spring arrived, Sarah started volunteering at the church that had welcomed her and Ethan. She served food to the homeless on Sundays, smiled more, and talked less about what she didn't have. One evening, after helping clean up, she saw a young mother sitting alone outside with a crying baby. The woman looked cold, scared, and tired, just like Sarah had once been. Without thinking, Sarah took off her scarf, wrapped it around the woman's shoulders, and handed her a few dollars from her pocket. The woman looked up with tears in her eyes. "Why are you helping me?" Sarah smiled softly and said, "Because someone once helped me. And I guess it's my turn now." The woman whispered, "God bless you." Sarah smiled again. "He already has." That night, when she returned home, Ethan was waiting by the window with his guitar. "Mom, I wrote a song," he said excitedly. She sat on the couch and he played. The song was simple, just a few chords and soft words. But the lyrics made her heart ache in the best way. He sang, "When you feel lost, look around. God's gifts are everywhere." Tears rolled down Sarah's cheeks. "That's beautiful," she whispered. Ethan smiled proudly. "I learned it from you." As she held him close, she realized something. The real gift wasn't money, or luck, or even miracles. It was faith. The kind that keeps you standing when life tries to break you. It was love, the kind that multiplies when you share it. And it was hope, the quiet, gentle kind that grows inside you like sunlight through clouds. Sarah had been searching for a sign from God. But maybe God's gift wasn't a sign at all. Maybe it was her life itself, the struggle, the love, the lessons. She smiled, looked at her son, and whispered, "Thank you, God, for everything." Moral of the story: sometimes God's greatest gifts don't come wrapped in paper or gold. They come in love, faith, and the courage to keep going when life feels impossible. I share stories like this every day. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.